Chapter 3. The first day she wasn't there, I didn't notice. That seems impossible now, but it's true. I had a math quiz second period that I hadn't studied for, a history worksheet due that was mostly blank, and conditioning after school, which meant Coach Dempsey was going to invent new ways to make my legs regret belonging to me. The day had enough of me in it that I didn't think much about anyone else. That was one of the luxuries I had back then. I could forget other people existed and nothing bad happened to me. So Monday passed. I sat in English, 2 rows from the back, and Davis's desk near the door stayed empty. Mrs. Albright looked at it once when she called attendance, paused for less than a second, and moved on. Nobody said anything. Or maybe somebody did, and I didn't hear. On Tuesday, I noticed. Not right away. Not in some dramatic movie way where I walked into school and felt the absence like a change in the weather. It was smaller than that. I was at my locker before first bell, listening to Mason complain about his stepdad making him stack firewood after school, and I looked down the hall toward the main doors. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. She wasn't there. That was all. No Davis walking fast with books hugged to her chest. No hair tucked behind one ear. No careful path along the lockers where she could keep her shoulder away from everybody else's. Just kids coming in with backpacks and wet hair and gas station coffees, loud enough to fill the space where she wasn't. I looked away before I could wonder why I had looked. By Wednesday, I was looking on purpose. That embarrassed me, though there wasn't anybody inside my head to catch me doing it. I still felt caught. I checked the table near the library at lunch. I checked the hallway outside Mrs. Albright's room. I checked the side doors after conditioning, pretending I was stretching my calves while really watching the parking lot. Nothing. No Davis. Barnes, Mason said that afternoon, dropping beside me on the bleachers with a grunt. You lose something? No. You keep staring at the school. I'm thinking. About what? How you're still slower than me even though your legs are longer. He shoved me. I shoved him back. That was how boys like us escaped questions. Make it physical enough to be funny, and nobody had to mean anything. On Thursday, Tyler noticed too, but of course he noticed wrong. We were in the cafeteria, which was always the worst room in the school by volume and smell. Pizza squares, fryer oil, milk cartons, wet trays, voices bouncing off the walls until every thought in your head had to shout to survive. I was sitting with the usual guys. Mason on my left, Tyler across from me even though nobody had invited him exactly. Tyler didn't need invitations. He moved through school like every seat was being saved for him. He was picking pepperoni off his pizza and stacking it on a napkin because Tyler had opinions about everything, including cafeteria meat. "Where's Princess been?" he said. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Nobody else seemed to react. Mason shrugged. Who? Tyler said the name everyone used then. The one I'm not writing. The one that never belonged to this story, even when it was the only one printed in the yearbook. Oh, Mason said. Dunno. Maybe finally transferred to fairy school, Tyler said. A couple guys laughed. I stared at my tray. There was corn in a little plastic cup, swimming in water. I remember that more clearly than I remember my own face that day. Yellow corn. Clear water. A dent in the foil lid from where my thumb had pressed too hard. Maybe he's sick, I said. The table quieted for half a beat. Not fully. Not enough for anyone across the room to notice. Just enough that my words hung there weirdly earnest and out of place. Tyler looked at me. What? I shrugged, suddenly very interested in pretending I hadn't said anything. I said maybe Davis is sick. Tyler smiled slowly. Not big. Not cruel yet. Curious. You worried? No. Sounded worried. Sounded like a normal thing people say when somebody's not at school. Mason made a low ooh noise, like any disagreement at lunch was automatically a sporting event. Tyler leaned back in his chair. Relax, Barnes. I'm sure your girlfriend's fine. Everybody laughed that time. Heat rushed up my neck so fast it felt like anger, but it wasn't. Not all of it. Some of it was fear. Some of it was shame. Some of it was something I didn't have a name for, which meant I stuffed it into the nearest available box and called it annoyance. Shut up, I said it, but I said it smiling. That mattered. I said it in the safe voice, the buddy voice, the voice that meant we were all still fine. Nobody had to choose a side. Please don't look too closely at me. Tyler laughed and threw a pepperoni at Mason. The moment passed. I let it. That night, I did something I had no reason to do. I opened Instagram and searched Davis. Not the name I won't write, just Davis, Cooper's Ridge. A few combinations that made me feel stupid as soon as I typed them. Nothing came up that I could prove was her. A private account with no picture, a couple cousins maybe. Some old school district post with honor roll names from middle school. I closed the app, then opened it again 10 seconds later, then closed it for real and tossed my phone onto the bed like it had done something wrong. Mom knocked on my door. You okay in there? Yeah. You need your track stuff washed? It's in the basket. That is a lie, and we both know it. I looked at the heap of clothes by my desk. It's basket adjacent. Riley? I'll bring it down. She opened the door anyway because Moms hear promises as weather reports, not contracts. She looked tired in her blue scrubs, hair pulled back, one earring missing. She worked billing at the urgent care 3 towns over and always smelled faintly like hand sanitizer when she got home. Her eyes went to my phone on the bed, then to me. What's wrong? Nothing. Seriously. She waited. That was one of her powers. Silence didn't scare her the way it scared me. I almost asked her something. I don't know what. Maybe. How sick does somebody have to be to miss a whole week? Maybe. Do you ever worry about people you don't even know? Maybe. If everyone is mean to someone and you aren't, but you don't stop them, what does that make you? Instead, I said, math is stupid. Mom smiled a little. Math has been stupid for a long time. Anything new? No. She gave me one more look, then scooped up my laundry pile with the expression of a woman who had lost a war she had entered voluntarily. Bring the rest down before you sleep. Okay. And don't stay up too late. Okay. She left. I stayed up too late. Friday came and Davis's desk was still empty. By then, the absence had become part of my day. I hated that. I hated how quickly a missing person could turn into a routine. Teachers didn't mention her. Students only did if they wanted an easy joke. Her desk stayed there, empty and ordinary, collecting the same dusty light as every other desk. Mrs. Albright passed back essays that afternoon. I got a B+ and a little note that said, good instincts. Slow down and develop your ideas. That felt unfair because slowing down was exactly what I hated doing, on paper or anywhere else. When she put Davis's essay face down on the empty desk, I looked at it. I couldn't see the grade. I wondered what she had written. I wondered where she was. I wondered if she was glad not to be there. Then I wondered why that made my stomach hurt. The weekend should have reset things. Weekends did that in high school. They washed the building smell off you. They gave you football games and grocery trips and mowing lawns and sleeping until noon if nobody yelled. By Monday, whatever had mattered Friday usually felt smaller. But that Monday, I walked into school and looked for her before I looked for anyone else. Still nothing. A full week. That was when the rumors got braver. Somebody said her parents pulled her out. Somebody said she got sent to live with an aunt. Somebody said she got suspended for threatening Tyler, which was so obviously Tyler's fantasy that even Tyler didn't bother backing it up. Somebody said she had mental problems, which in Cooper's Ridge was what people called anything they didn't want to understand. The worst rumors were the ones said quietly. Those crawled under doors. I heard 2 girls whispering by the vending machines that Davis had tried something. They didn't say what. They didn't need to. Their faces made the shape of it. I felt cold all over. Then angry. Then guilty for being angry when I still hadn't done anything worth anger. I walked past them without asking. That is what I did with almost everything then. I walked past. On Tuesday, Mrs. Albright made us work in groups of 4, and Davis's empty desk got dragged into our cluster because the room was too crowded and furniture does not respect symbolism. I sat with Mason, Amy Trask, and Leo Park, who was quiet enough that teachers called him focused instead of antisocial. Davis's desk was between me and the aisle. Empty. Amy glanced at it and lowered her voice. My mom said there was a school board meeting last night. Mason groaned. Your mom goes to school board meetings? She's on the curriculum committee. That sounds like a disease. Amy ignored him. She said there was some kind of closed session about a student. My pencil stopped moving. Leo looked up. What student? Mason asked. Amy's eyes flicked toward the empty desk. She didn't say the name. For some reason, that made me like her for about 5 seconds. "What kind of closed session?" I asked. Amy looked at me, surprised I had joined in. "I don't know. My mom wouldn't say. Just that some parents are upset." "Parents are always upset," Mason said. "That's like their hobby." Amy lowered her voice more. "I think it's about bathrooms." The room seemed to tilt. I didn't know enough then. That's important to say, though it doesn't excuse much. I knew jokes, I knew insults, I knew the words people use like spit. I knew boys were boys and girls were girls because everyone had told me that like it was a fact as plain as gravity. I knew there were people who complicated that. Somewhere far away, on TV or online or in cities, people in Cooper's Ridge mentioned like warnings. But I didn't know Erica. Not yet. So when Amy said bathrooms, I didn't understand. Not fully. Still, something in me moved toward the truth before I had words for it. Mason made a face. "What, like Davis?" Amy's mouth tightened. I said I don't know. The bell rang before anyone could say anything else. I was grateful. Cowardice is full of gratitude for interruptions. Wednesday morning, she came back. I was at my locker before first bell, half turned while Mason told me about a video he'd watched of a guy jumping a dirt bike into a pond. I wasn't listening. I was looking toward the main doors again, though by then I had trained myself to pretend I wasn't. The doors opened. A gust of cold air pushed in, carrying the smell of damp leaves and bus exhaust. And there she was. For a second, the hallway didn't react. People were too busy being themselves. Lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking, somebody yelling for somebody to wait up. The ordinary machinery of school. Then attention began to spread. Not all at once. A few heads turned. Then a few more, like a match catching paper at one corner. She stood just inside the doors with her backpack over both shoulders. Her hair was different. Not cut. That was the first thing I noticed, and the relief hit me so hard it made no sense. It was still long, maybe a little neater now, brushed smooth and tucked behind one ear with a small black clip. A clip. Such a tiny thing. Such a dangerous thing in that hallway. She wore jeans and a plain green sweater under her open coat. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that should have made the air change. But it did, because she was not trying to disappear. That was the difference. She looked terrified. I don't want to pretend she didn't. Her face was pale, and one hand gripped the strap of her backpack so tightly her knuckles stood out. But her head was up. Not high. Not proud in the way posters tell you to be proud. Just up. Beside her stood Principal Rollins. That was new, too. Rollins was a square man with a square haircut and a square idea of fairness, which mostly meant making everybody equally unhappy and calling that leadership. He had one hand hovering behind her shoulder without touching, guiding without quite protecting. The hallway quieted. Not silent. Never silent. But quieter. Mason stopped talking mid-sentence. Tyler, 3 lockers down, turned. Principal Rollins cleared his throat, which was absurd because nobody gives speeches in a hallway before first bell unless something has already gone wrong. "Folks," he said, too loud and not loud enough. "A moment." The quiet sharpened. She looked like she wanted the floor to open. She also looked like she would not step back if it did. "This is Erica Davis," Principal Rollins said. The name moved through me before I understood it. Erica. Not like a new word. Like a word I had heard once in a dream and forgotten. "She is a student here," Rollins continued, his voice taking on that careful official tone adults use when they are afraid of saying something that can be quoted back to them. "She will be addressed by that name. Teachers have been informed. I expect all students to conduct themselves respectfully." A few people stared. A few looked away fast, like looking too long might make them responsible for what happened next. Tyler laughed. Not loud. Just one short breath through his nose. But I heard it. So did Erica. Her eyes moved. For the first time in my life, Erica Davis looked directly at me. Not because she knew me. Not really. I was just standing in the line her gaze crossed while trying not to land on Tyler. But for 1 second, her eyes met mine. Brown. That's what I remember, which is ridiculous because of course they were brown. They had probably always been brown. But it felt like discovering something anyway. She looked scared. She looked tired. She looked like she had spent the last week somewhere harder than school and had still chosen school. I did not smile. I wish I had. I did not nod. I wish I had done that too. I just looked at her, and maybe that was better than looking away, but not by enough to be proud of. Tyler said, "No way," quietly, To himself, maybe. To the hallway, maybe. To God. Who knows? Principal Rollins's eyes snapped toward him. Mr. McVee, Tyler widened his eyes, all innocence and teeth. I didn't say anything. You're about to be late, Rollins said. That was the strongest defense authority ever mounted for Erica Davis in my presence up to that point. You're about to be late. A warning against inconvenience, not cruelty. The first bell rang. The sound made half the hallway jump. Erica flinched too, then hated herself for it. I could see that. The tiny tightening of her mouth, the way she swallowed and stepped forward like motion could cover the crack. People parted, not kindly, curiously, like she was carrying something fragile or contagious. Principal Rollins walked with her toward the office, probably to get her schedule printed with the right name or to perform whatever ritual adults need paperwork for before they believe a person exists. As she passed Tyler, he tilted his head and smiled. "Morning, Princess," he said. Not loud enough for Rollins to hear. Loud enough for her. Loud enough for me. Erica's steps faltered, only once. Then she kept walking. Tyler's friends laughed under their breath. Mason looked at me. I don't know what my face was doing. Something strange, maybe, because Mason's grin faded. "You good?" he asked. No. That was the answer. No, I was not good, because the hallway from 2 weeks before had rearranged itself in my memory all at once. Princess, pretty hair, girlfriend, homecoming queen. The years of jokes I had heard and not heard, laughed at and not laughed at, ignored and stepped around. All those boys had been calling her a girl for as long as it gave them a weapon. And now that she had said yes, now that she had stood there with her hair clipped back and her hands shaking and her name finally in the air, I could already feel them getting ready to say no. I didn't have language for the unfairness of that yet. Erica would later. She would have a lot of language for it, some of it sharp enough to cut skin. But standing there at my locker, 16 years old and useless, all I knew was that something had happened. Something bigger than gossip. Something bigger than bathrooms and school board meetings and whatever people would say at dinner tables that night. Erica Davis had walked into Cooper's Ridge High as herself. And I, Riley Barnes, who could run faster than anybody in that building, had never felt more stuck in place.